The Manchester, New Hampshire judicial vicar, Father de Laire, is suing Michael Voris, Anita Carey, St. Michael Media, Church Militant, and Mark Ballesteri. The lawsuit is due to a series of articles written by Voris, Carey, and Ballesteri, which Father de Laire alleges defamation, as the articles call into question Father de Laire's integrity, competence, and mental health. There's a lot to this story, folks, and today there's an additional update. I was on the court's Zoom hearing today. Michael Voris was on audio only, while Mike Sherry was on video. Neither Voris or Church Militant has legal representation now. Judge LaPlante, many times during the hearing, checked in with Mike Sherry to ensure he understood the proceedings and what de Laire's attorney, Howard Cooper, was explaining. Keep in mind, two of attorneys have quit the Church Militant and Voris team. The judge was very direct in his response, recommending Voris and Church Militant independently secure cancel. Judge LaPlante stated the last defense teams were unorthodox, problematic, and troubling. The last attorney of Church Militant, Attorney Lehman, resigned because of a conflict of interest in representing both Church Militant and Voris. Now, here are two things we learned today. Both Church Militant buildings, north and south, as we refer to them, plan to be sold and closed upon this Thursday. Sherry said Church Militant will rent back the building north where the studio is from the new owner, who, as Sherry stated, is a friendly supporter of Church Militant. I'm not sure why he put that in today's hearing, but he did. The second thing is Father de Laire is not trying to shut down Church Militant, but de Laire's attorney, Howard Cooper, is asking for an affidavit from Sherry detailing the day-to-day operational costs and suggesting that the proceeds from the sale of the property goes into an escrow until the attorney for de Laire has time to review the cost to substantiate Sherry's statement that all Church Militant can afford in the summary judgment is $200,000. As Howard Cooper explained, he was only doing this to protect Father de Laire's interest in this lawsuit. Why Sherry did not come prepared or offer a statement to Howard Cooper before this hearing is remarkable. So, with that, I would like to bring in to the audience a guest that you all know. Welcome, Christine Chrisley.
Yeah. Well, that hearing was very interesting, wasn't it?
It sure was. And did I get anything wrong in the monologue?
The only thing I would update is that I believe they've had 4 different attorneys.
Oh, okay.
So I believe, and I could be, I'm just talking off the top of my head right now. I think they tried to have Randazza first. LaPlante objected to him for some reason. Then they had 2 other people come in. They're the ones who exited in the summer. And then this most recent guy who has just exited. So I would say so far they've had, 4 different folks involved.
And was it your impression that the judge was not real happy about this?
Yeah. And I had gotten that impression, Christine, as I mentioned to you, in other conversations that we've had. I got that impression just from reading the documents on, the court's website, his rulings on other issues. You could tell, I think it's important to mention Joseph LaPlante or however you say it. He's Catholic. I really get the impression that he is really trying to do right by everybody. It's very impressive, very measured in everything that he was saying. So yes, but as you pointed out in your opening, he said he called it unorthodox, problematic, and one other.
Troubling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just how this case has proceeded, the whole problem with the evidence and so on, which we can get into eventually. But listening to that hearing, you really learn a lot.
I agree, Christine, you do. And it seems like Howard Cooper, the attorney for Father de Laire, is also being very generous
Yeah.
and making sure that Mike Sherry understood everything that they were talking about, since they don't have legal representation. And it was my opinion, and I'd like to hear yours. It sounded like the judge kind of shut down Michael Voris when Michael Voris started to speak about different things. And one of the things that Voris had said is that Sherry and him have not had a chance to talk, and the judge did not buy that at all, did he?
Oh, no, that was funny. Yeah, he said something like, well, maybe you better figure out a way to, to talk to Mr. Sherry when you have an upcoming hearing. Well, yeah. I thought another thing that was interesting is from this and from Damian Fisher's reporting, it seems like Mr. Voris is not, at least not yet, in rehab. And that he is consulting pretty regularly, at least with Mike Sherry and potentially with the entire board. It was interesting, this offer of $200,000, Sherry said, well, this is the number the board came up with.
But the $200,000 offer that Sherry presented, Howard Cooper, what he's trying to figure out is, how did they come up with that number, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So those buildings surely have got to sell for a lot more than $200,000.
He very politely, Mr. Cooper, very politely pointed out that it seemed like a made up number, and isn't it telling that Mike Sherry, who's president of the board, is unable to document what the cost of day-to-day operations are? Wouldn't that be the sort of thing that your accounting department would be able to provide, fairly quickly?
I would think so, Christine. I would think so. But then once again, we're talking about Church Militant. So it just,
wouldn't you have a budget? Couldn't you submit your budget? I mean,
yeah, I don't understand. And audience, just so you know, Howard Cooper was trying to kind of wrap this up a little tighter of, where are you pulling that number from?
mm-hmm.
And then at one point, Sherry said, we can't do 230,000. I don't know what he meant by that. Do you?
I don't know where that number came from. Maybe Michael Voris threw it out there. But, it was very interesting that when the judge said to Michael, Mr. Voris, everything you've said, it doesn't really pertain to what we're doing right now. So I think he literally said, you need to stop talking. Didn't he say that?
He said something along those lines, because he said, if you continue to talk, then, that will further,
you'll be waiving attorney
privilege, and there could be more discovery that he can open themselves up to.
Yeah.
So he pretty much told Michael to shut up and sit down. And all Howard Cooper, the attorney for Father de Laire, was trying to figure out, where did you get this 200,000 from? So I thought, and I'd like your opinion on this, Christine.
Mm-hmm.
The judge was being overly compassionate to Mike Sherry and didn't have the time of day for Michael Voris.
I don't know if I'm not sure I would say overly, but I think potentially in the interest of any further litigation, potential litigation, he wanted to make absolutely sure that Mike Sherry understood. But like you, I felt like that there was a level of compassion for what Mike Sherry has stepped into, the situation that he's a very grave situation. I mean,
yes.
yeah, I mean, several times Mike said, well, if X happens and we'll just have to shut down in January. But of course, that was him kind of misunderstand. He was saying that when he sort of misunderstood exactly what was being offered. But once he understood that, then of course they came to at least a temporary agreement. Yeah.
Yeah. And, Howard Cooper also stated over, I think 2 times, that it was not Father de Laire's. He did not want to try to shut down Church Militant. That was not his point for the lawsuit. The lawsuit that he filed was for defamation.
In Father de Laire's case, in reading what they said about him, and all they had to do was take that article down. That's all they had to. That's really, at least at first, that's all he wanted. I believe.
So did they take the article down? I was looking for it before we came on air, and they did.
I don't know. I looked for it. I don't know. Maybe it's been a couple of weeks, and it was still up. It was still there.
Anita Carey, who is also mentioned in the lawsuit, has written hundreds of articles for Church Militant. I mean, she is a staff writer. Is she still a staff writer, Christine? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't think so. Okay. Well, I mean, she's certainly not at Church Militant. She's not there. But I don't think she's writing. She's not doing news reporting anymore. I don't think.
Okay. And did you know her?
I never met her, but I heard that she was a very excellent reporter.
Most of the articles that I saw coming from her were 2018 and 2019. Why specifically was she named in this lawsuit? Because there seems to be confusion about who wrote this article. Did Voris write it? Did Anita Carey write it? Did Ballesteri write it? Who wrote the article, or did all 3?
Well, actually, there are 2 articles. So the first article, the very first article that appeared, that's where the controversy is about who wrote the article. So was it Ballesteri? Was it Voris? Was it a combination of both of them collaborating? And then there was a follow-up article that Anita wrote.
I'd like to read to everyone. Here is what Father is complaining about. That the amended complaint added Mr. Ballesteri as a defendant, and Father de Laire alleges that the following statements in the defendant's publications are defamatory, and that is Father de Laire is said by current work colleagues to be emotionally unstable in his role as chief canonical judge of the diocese and counselor to his bishop, that Father de Laire is said to be desperate to repair his image and save his chances at being promoted as a bishop or an official of the Roman Curia, that Father de Laire conducts his duties with incompetence in canonical matters that is also apparently well known and corroborated in the Roman Curia, and Father de Laire is nicknamed in the Roman Curia as a troublemaker owing to his notorious botching of canonical cases involving clergy and other matters. Multiple independent sources in the Roman Curia say he has repeatedly botched diocesan cases and embarrassed his bishop before the Roman congregation of the Curiae. Father de Laire is currently outsourcing work product that he, as a canon lawyer, is well paid by the diocese to complete himself. Priests and laity who currently work with him in the diocese say that Father de Laire is a vindictive and manipulative clericalist who pines to be named a bishop or an official of the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith. At least 3 complaints against de Laire have been filed with the Holy See that together allege corruption, abuse of office, and grave violations of the law and incompetence as a canonist. Additional questions are raised by his acquisitions. Church Militant has learned that de Laire now frequently resides at an estate located near Manchester that he purchased and that is currently valued at $1.5 million. Father de Laire individually has been responsible for attacks against the St. Benedict Center since shortly after his promotion to judicial vicar about 2 years ago. And that is what, in a nutshell, Father de Laire is absolutely fighting against, and says that all of these statements made by Church Militant are defamatory. And apparently the court proceedings are all about those statements. Is there anything you'd like to add, Christine?
It's possible that all of that won't even be litigated. It's possible they'll come to a settlement even before, they try to figure out, well, what's defamatory and what's not, and so on. I would just say, in what you read, notice that it said multiple sources. I think that's one of the potential areas of concern. It's like, who are those multiple sources? Balistreri is, there's concern. Okay. And this would have, you'd have to find this out. There's concern that he didn't have multiple sources, that he was just writing, kind of shooting from the hip. That was his impression, based on the gossip he'd heard around the Roman Curia, so every piece of that is questionable. I mean, just every single piece of it. To say that somebody's mentally unstable, that he's known as a troublemaker, they bring in the fact that he has a very nice home that he purchased for his mother. I hope our audience does know that Father de Laire is from a very wealthy family. He's French, and his family had, they were in, the fragrance business, so perfume. They had I don't know what they call it, a house of perfume. That's where his wealth comes from. And so he had bought this very nice home for his mother. He was providing her with a home in the manner to which she has been accustomed. So they were accusing him of things that, in some ways didn't make sense.
One of the things that Voris said in the hearing today that totally took me back was he had said that they were using money for advertising.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, when did Church Militant ever advertise? Because Voris was so against advertising. And I was sitting there thinking, well, what does he mean by that? Because do you know, Christine, what he meant by that?
No, I don't. So I noticed that as well. It's a really tragic situation.
Yeah, it is a tragic situation all the way around. And what I get a lot from people, why do you keep reporting on this, Christine? Why do you keep making videos about this? Well, for the simple reason, folks, because Church Militant isn't telling you everything. I mean, those newsletters that go out on Sunday are just fluff pieces. They have yet to denounce Michael Voris's behavior. He is obviously not at a treatment center in Texas like one podcaster reported. that he was, already in rehab in Texas. No, he's still in Ferndale. The last court hearing, when was the last court hearing? It was Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
was he on video then, Christine? Were you on that one?
I wasn't, but Mr. Fisher was, and he mentioned that you could see a dog in the background. Now, maybe Michael got to take his dog to, his therapy dog to rehab, but I think it's a lot more likely that he's not in rehab yet. And, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I'm sure, he's trying to help save Church Militant, and not just save Church Militant, but save jobs, because there's a lot on the line here.
There is a lot on the line, and donors are demanding answers. They're demanding to know more. And that's why I'll continue to do these videos. I mean, I can't tell you folks how many emails and phone calls I get from people telling me their story and their concerns. And some of them are, a lot of them are donors. A lot of them are premium subscribers. So there is nothing gleeful in any of this. As being a former Church Militant employee, Christine and I both have coworkers that, don't have jobs because, and some of them that were laid off in March still don't have jobs.
That's right.
And so, there is nothing gleeful about any of this, but the donors deserve to know, because Church Militant, St. Michael's Media, is not being transparent. They're still putting Band-Aids, and their emails are, quote, "We heard you. Here's the programming we're going to bring." It's not about the programming.
Yeah.
It's about deceiving donors.
Yeah.
Lying to donors. That's what it's about.
And of course, from my perspective, reporting on nonprofit organizations, the level of negligence, the fact that they needed insurance to potentially battle claim like this.
I'm glad you brought that up, because this is a very important part of this equation of the incompetence of the board. And that is, they had no E&O coverage insurance. They had nothing to cover them for defamation. Mm-hmm. What serious media company doesn't have that kind of insurance protection?
Yeah.
And is E&O expensive? Yes, it can be, but they were making enough bringing in donor money to be able to have that protection. And because they don't have that defamation insurance protection, now Church Militant, as a nonprofit organization, is at extreme risk of going under. But what they need is an error and omissions liability policy, which, let's just say that, in this trial now, de Laire versus Voris, Christine Niles had misstated something in the deposition, and
which she did.
Pardon me?
Which she did.
Yes, which she did. And E&O could have protected Church Militant from that error. So, it covers a lot of things. And like I said, I've been out of the insurance industry for a while, so I'd have to read up on it a little more. But there is specific coverage that all businesses have to protect themselves.
Well, and wouldn't it be the case, Christine, that if someone had that kind of insurance, that if the insurance were invoked, then the insurance company would provide legal counsel?
Yes. Yep, it could in some instances. Right, exactly. Yep.
So they would have had that level of protection as well. So it's just one of the ways that, they've just left themselves open for this sort of liability. I mean, which is, I don't know the legal uh, definition of negligence. When you're a board member, you take on that responsibility. And I don't get the impression that these folks understood. But of course, I don't think they can claim ignorance. I don't think that lets them off the hook. There may be donors out there who feel like, well, nevertheless, even though it wasn't run in the most professional way possible, we still want to support it. And that's fine. I mean, obviously, it's a free country. You can give your money to, whoever you want to, but you do need to know that your money may end up in the pocket of Father de Laire because the organization defamed him. So your money is actually maybe not going to go to do what you want. It's actually going to go to Father de Laire, not because he wants it. I don't get that impression.
No, I don't get that impression either.
Oh, now he was on the call, wasn't he?
He was, but he didn't say anything. Howard Cooper spoke on his behalf, and it's telling that Voris nor Church Militant can afford an attorney.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure Church Militant can't. And I'm just going off of what Damian Fisher reported, which is that I guess at the last hearing, Voris said that he couldn't afford it. Now, whether Church Militant can afford it, I don't know. But I had no idea that that both properties were going to close on Thursday. I had no idea that both were. Did you? Did
No,
you know?
that was new news that both were closing on Thursday. And then
And when we say closing, we mean real estate closing.
Yes, real estate closing. They both have sold to someone, as Sherry said, is friendly to Church Militant. They're renting back studio building from the new owner, and that apparently is the plan for Thursday. So, and then what the judge also wanted to make sure that if there was not an agreement for today, that then he would recommend that a lien be put on the buildings until they supplied the information that the court needed.
Yeah, and that's the piece that woke Mike Sherry up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because had they put that lien on there, that sale couldn't move forward. That lien has to be satisfied before it can be released for the sale of a commercial building.
Oh, that makes sense.
Now, anybody in the audience that knows that answer, if you'd put it in the comments, that would help us because I'm not a commercial real estate agent either. But from my insurance life,
right,
that came up from time to time. So,
yeah.
All right. Any parting thoughts, Christine, on today's hearing?
Well, I would just say that because Church Militant won't answer questions, I've written Mike Sherry, well, at least 2 times and have never gotten a response. Then, of course, that means that we, to get information, we have to go, listen to the hearings. I'm glad we did because we got a lot more information. So and then just as we talked about, I really get the feeling like both the judge and Mr. Cooper, the plaintiff's lawyer, Father de Laire's lawyer, they are not being vindictive at all. They're being extremely understanding under this, even though the whole process of the case has been unorthodox, problematic, and what was the other one?
Troubling.
Yeah, the judge and the plaintiff's lawyer are really trying to help, but
Well, they're trying to,
they're not
right.
going to give it away.
Yeah, they're trying to work with Mike Sherry on making the decisions and trying to keep Michael Voris in his box.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone, as this proceeding goes forward, we'll keep you updated. Christine, what's your next article coming out?
Well, I'll have a little something about, my next article related to Church Militant.
No, related to anything.
Oh, oh, tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have one coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow I'll be talking once again about, Congress just a couple of weeks ago was again investigating, this twin pairing between 501c3s and 501c4s, like Church Militant, St. Michael's Media is. That's being investigated at the congressional level. And then also I'm including some information about a new survey that shows that Christians, of all people, are the most generous. So it's a really lovely story and really nice to hear. So those two things.
Well, thank you, Christine. And you can check out Christine's Substack by going to Trust But Verify, and that's on Substack. Correct,
Yeah.
Christine?
Correct.
I'll put the link below the video so you can go right to it.
Well, thank you, Christine. It's really, I wouldn't should say I've enjoyed this conversation, but it's nice to have the collaboration of information.
Yes, that's exactly right. And here's the sad part is when we worked at Church Militant, information was not shared with us. And it was very hard to understand what was going on inside of Church Militant, what decisions were being made, what directions were being made. And, I hope that Church Militant comes back around and reassesses everything, reassesses the way they do business, get serious about doing business the right way. Everyone had to talk among themselves to figure out what was going on.
Yes. Yeah. Communication from leadership and management. I mean, there's a very good point to make. This isn't about just Michael Voris. This is about the whole leadership structure. They allowed this to just drift along into, the horrible situation that it's in now. And when people tried to tell them, they wouldn't listen.
That's exactly right. They wouldn't listen. And the fact that the board never met, maybe one time in 15, 16 years, they didn't have defamation insurance or E&O. I mean, these are all examples of a organization that wasn't ran properly. So everyone, what we have coming up is a guest that will be on Wednesday evening. And she is going to share her story of being on the Retreat by Sea cruise. Plus, she has a lot of research into narcissism, idolatry, and cult personality behaviors. And she'll be talking about that. And then Friday, we have a special guest coming on who I'm just going to save that for Friday. So, Christine, thank you so much for being on.
No, thank you, Christine.
Okay, everyone, remember, eternal life is forever. Got a plan? I sure hope so. And I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas, Happy Advent, And I especially want to thank you all who have emailed me. I know I didn't get back to all the emails, and I was really hoping that I'd be able to, but with the week, the way it went at Christmas time, and I was just overwhelmed with all the emails and the phone calls that I took to talk to my different sources and different things that was happening around Church Militant. Yes, we should pray for Michael Voris and Church Militant that they do become more transparent, absolutely transparent to the donors, and that they denounce Michael Voris's behaviors, which they still haven't done. So until tomorrow, bye-bye.